What's happening, my friends? Hope everybody's doing well. It's a Friday. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this streaming service going. It's always challenging to get streams running on multiple services at the same time. But anyway, we're here, bitches. Before I get anything started, I want to encourage everybody to grab a drink. I'm sipping on a Pacifico Clara today, imported beer. And I'm not doing a shot today. I tried a shot on the last podcast, and truth be told, I don't really drink that much. So taking a shot right before the podcast, like, you guys probably can't hear a difference, but it's very hard to remain concise while speaking. And that's obviously the goal here. So anyway, that should give you guys enough time to get your drink. Cheers all around the world. Delicious. I'm not going to put this here. That's a rookie mistake. To put your drink right next to the hardware. It's been a good week, man. You know what? It feels weird to say that. I'm going to rephrase it. It ended up being a really good week because, as everybody knows, this week was filled with hardships all around the world. I'm not going to sit here, again, I always say it, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the first person to say it, like I'm saying some sort of revelation. But the point is that I really got to meditate and think this week, and I thought I want to do something. I want to do something to raise awareness to the issues that are going on. That was the first thing that came into my mind. The second thing that came into my mind is that I wanted it to be genuine and not be forced and also not be in line with any of the popular trends that start when a situation like this happens, because my take on it is that it's a beautiful thing that people start a trend to raise awareness about any tragedy. I think that's a beautiful thing. But just like anything else, once it becomes mainstream, as that trend becomes more popular, there's people who latch on to that and they start using it for their own purposes. And they start using it to show how good of a person they are and show how tolerant they are and show how loving they are. And it becomes about them. It's not about the person at that point. It's not whether it's one person in the case of George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery, rest in peace, or whether it's, some sort of mass shooting like the situation in Paris when everybody changes their profile pictures. At a certain point in time, when it becomes widespread, it loses the factor of being genuine. So listen, I love everybody who's posting a black box. I think that's incredible, because you're showing that you care. If it's genuine, I think it's incredible. But there's too many people who don't care that are doing it for me to do that, if that makes sense. And it's not because I'm not with the cause. It's not because I don't agree, because I do agree. And that's why I decided to take it into my own hands and show it in my own way. So I figured, since I was talking to Uncle Joey Coco Diaz on yesterday's podcast, I figured we would just jump into a little bit of the stuff about the riots, maybe try to spread some positivity and raise some awareness. And it was really interesting because Uncle Joey was interested in doing the same thing. I don't even think I really brought it up in this podcast. Uncle Joey brought it up because you could tell that it's something that's really been close to Uncle Joey's heart. If you know one thing about Uncle Joey, is that he loves people. He loves people. He loves connecting with people. That's his heart and soul. So when this topic came up, Joey became very passionate about it. And the main thing that he wanted to share was that he wants the N-word abolished basically from popular culture. And he became very passionate about this issue. And the passion that I witnessed was so beautiful over the Zoom call. And you have to understand, it's really hard to react to that level of passion, especially when it's coming from that place, from the heart, because it's so raw and it's so real, and you can really get that feeling. So that's what happens when you're on the call. Now, whenever you're looking at any calls, people are looking at this right now and they're making a list of all the things I'm saying and doing wrong since I've started. Because when you're not there, you're free to analyze. So I thought it was really interesting to see all the opinions on people reacting to Uncle Joey saying that he wants the N-word, quote unquote, banned. And listen, me and Joey, when we're talking just like I'm sitting in a restaurant with somebody, or we're sitting across the table. I'm not going to say at a bar. Joey wouldn't be caught dead in a bar like a fucking mook, sitting around like a jerk off drinking fruity drinks. Neither would I. You know what I mean? But we're talking real. We're keeping it real. So, you know what I mean? Obviously, Joey doesn't want any words banned. He's been very vocal against that. What Joey said, and from what talking to him, being the guy he was saying it to, is he wants that word out of rap music, out of movies, out of television, out of magazines, not out of the history books, not out of proper context when talking about world issues. He wants rappers, he wants actors, he wants people in positions of power with a platform to stop using the N-word and pushing it out into into popular culture. And that makes total perfect sense. So some of the comments on this really got me raising my eyebrows, and it just goes to show you can't say anything right, especially when you're popular at the level of Joey, world famous. And I talked with him about this in the podcast. I was like, what's it been like now that you are this dude who's known everywhere? Like, I've always known him as Uncle Joey. I was watching on the Stickham days when there was like 200 people in the chat, and Stickham is a live service that doesn't even exist anymore. You know what I mean? That's the thing. People think me and Joey just met yesterday. I've known Joey for quite a while, and I love Joey. So that's the thing. When he echoed this sentiment, and I want to echo this sentiment. If you're offended, fuck you. I don't care. Okay? If you're offended of a guy who stands up and says, I don't want the N-word popularized because I think it's bad for young people, you're an idiot. Okay? And I can't help you with that. Joey can't help you with that. And hopefully somebody down the line is going to be able to help you with that. But it's not going to be a comedian. It's not going to be a podcast host. And it's not going to be me. If you think that saying the N-word shouldn't be in popular culture is a bad thing, please unadd me right now. So that's all I wanted to say. So I'm really glad, again, that I could use this opportunity being on the air during riots and such to actually talk about them, to talk about the real life issues, and to have my family, my Uncle Joey, on the podcast to talk about it with me and to help me make sense of all this. As I told him in the beginning of this episode, I really needed to talk to him, and not just for me. I felt the need to push some positivity out. And I often feel that. That's really my goal with this show. And again, positivity does not mean putting your head in the sand and or up your ass and ignoring what's happening in the world. That's not what being positive means. It means I'm sucking up all the air in the fucking room. It means address the issues. Talk about the real life issues. Talk about the shit that's facing us. But just don't do it in a doom and gloom way and in a way that's going to feed the issue. And when there's a negative climate, when there's negative feeling, when there's negative energy in the air, it fuels the issue in a negative way. It's not the right thing. So the way that I wanted to discuss this in closing was not to put a black box on social media that gives no information or resources or explanation for anybody. There are people who live with their head in the sand. And if they come on social media one day and they see a bunch of black boxes, they don't know what that means. As strange as it might sound, a lot of friends of mine don't even use social media. You know what I mean? I tell them about all these riots and stuff. They haven't heard about it. So I figured, again, spreading information is better than spreading silence and spreading something that's not really saying anything. But again, don't get me wrong. I see where people's heart is when they're doing this. Again, I just condemn the people who take advantage. All right, moving on. We got a couple of things in the roster here for music and entertainment. Again, it's difficult to find stories on music and entertainment during this quarantine, during this coronavirus fiasco. But we got one here for you, and this is sort of a weird story. I'm not going to lie to you. Kiss has announced that they've officially postponed their European tour dates from summer 2020. So I guess they had already postponed some of their dates, and they're going to be postponing them again. So they've postponed all previously announced European tour dates. The band states will continue monitoring the global situation and will reschedule the dates as soon as possible. And basically, Gene Simmons says to all of our European fans, Stay happy and healthy. We'll be back again very soon. Now look, I absolutely love Kiss. For anybody who may be a new viewer, this is on my wall for a reason, because Kiss will always be a part of my life, and I love Kiss very much. I feel like a fucking parent who's like trying to like tell their kid that their report card was shit and like ground them. That's not what I'm gonna say, but I am bracing for something. The point is, I love Kiss very much, but there becomes a point in time, and I'm gonna keep this brief, that I think it might just be time to just say thank you and good night. And I think this might be the time. You know what I mean? As much as I agree with everybody's right to go out there, do whatever you want to do, see what you want to see, and I also, Gene, Paul, those guys have the right to do whatever they want to do. So I'm not saying they should or shouldn't do anything. All I'm saying is, in my perspective, this is a tour that was already being dragged on for too long. Okay? This tour, like, frankly, and I gotta keep it frank, this tour started a little late. So that's all I'm gonna say. So maybe if I was them, I would look at canceling these dates. And the reason I'm saying this is because they've just postponed these dates, which is insanely late. It's June 5th, 2020. How long have we had this pandemic going on? Listen, I love Kiss. I'm not trying to bust balls. I'm just keeping it real. Like, seriously, this should have been canceled a long time ago. Same with The Weeknd. His concert was supposed to be here. He canceled it like 2 weeks before. And to me, that seems like an effort to sell tickets in order to secure a sellout date for the rescheduled performance. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that not what it is? Listen, we're in. A good friend of mine, and if you're watching, you know who you are, once taught me on this podcast, this isn't called the music. This is called the music business, not music friends. I.e., everything you do is for this, okay? And that's what I stress in politics, entertainment, music, acting. You know, whenever people see a celebrity coming out and they say, well, they're just saying it to look good, or they see a politician doing something and they say, well, he's just doing it to get votes. No shit. That's their job. It's their job to get votes and get work and have you like them and love them and think they're the best. And it's also their job to sell out concerts. So I don't fault Kiss here in any way. I just think maybe they should consider canceling it, giving the fans their money back, waiting to see essentially if the world comes back to normal and when, because we don't know what's going to happen next. You know what I mean? A couple weeks ago, nobody would have predicted riots, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think anybody would have predicted riots that didn't have to do directly with the virus. I mean, it definitely had to do with the virus. It was a powder keg. It compacted. It made things worse. But I don't think anybody expected this, and I don't think we can expect anything of what's going to come next. Now, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on, one more story. Now, before I touch on this, I just wanted to make one thing really abundantly clear here. I don't do politics. If you've noticed, I try not to interject too much of my personal beliefs into my programming. And if you haven't noticed, you'll notice it now. And so when I cover this story, I'm not going to do that, and I'm never going to do that. I just want to make that promise right here while I'm live on the air. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to be the guy who's out here trying to tell you who to vote for or you know, saying anything. And listen, if I think somebody's corrupt, I'm going to keep it to my fucking self, because my job, and I feel like there's an agreement between you and I. I feel like the agreement between you and I is that I make you feel better, I make you laugh, I entertain you, whatever you get from this show that's positive, and that's it. I've done my end of the bargain. So if I can do that without interjecting my opinions and making people feel shitty and think about the gloom and doom, that's what I'm going to do. So that's why I'm tackling this issue, because it tackles artists speaking their mind politically, and that's a topic that I wanted to touch on. So again, not interjecting my personal thoughts. So Serj Tankian from System of a Down, the beloved rock and roll icon. He responded to fans who don't want to hear his political ideas, and he says, quote, "Have you not listened to the words in 20 years?" Essentially about his music. So that's why I found this to be an interesting point. Obviously, very political group, very political message. So here's Serj's quote about this. It's really interesting. He says, the question was asked how he reconciles in his mind the fact that some fans of his may not agree with his political views, which is a great question. He responded, "I don't. I've always explained music is like pizza. Some people like it with the crust. Some people like it like the cheese. Some people like the topping. So when I get people on my socials that are, I love your music, but I don't want to hear your political ideas, that's fair enough. If they're nice enough, it's fair enough. But sometimes they're really mean. But what I don't understand, and a lot of other people that follow the music say the same thing, they're like, have you not listened to the fucking words in 20 years? He's been saying all this stuff throughout his music all this time. What are you, just dancing because it's groovy?" Now he goes on and on. I don't listen. We get the point. So very valid point. However, the point of the fans is very valid too, because at the end of the day, I see where Serj is coming from. However, System of a Down fans never started listening, most of them, never started listening to this group for Serj's political opinions or anybody else's. I highly doubt that politics had anything to do with most of the people listening to this group initially. I'm sure it easily became a part of what they love about the band. But when you're listening to a hard metal riff or a driving drum beat or a beautiful bass line, politics isn't what you're signing up for and what you're there for. It could be lyrics about politics, but that's not the driving force behind the music. So I understand the fans saying, listen, dude, just fucking, again, it's just like I'm saying, I have an agreement with you guys. They're like, we have an agreement with you, Serj. You play the music. You give me the endorphins and the good feelings and the happiness and the satisfaction of the music that you provide. And then you go home and you make more. And then you go on tour and you repeat. And that's the agreement. You know, there's, I would say, probably the vast majority of people feel that way. So I get it. But on the other hand, of the other side of the coin, folks, we're living in 2020. Obviously, the age far before this, clearly, where everybody has a voice, everybody has all this information, not only at their fingertips, but being pushed at them. Even when you're signing on to Yahoo News or opening the Safari homepage, there's things being pushed at you. It's all this information, all these opinions that really you're not signing up for. It's just coming into your head. And it's natural to have a reaction to that. And it's also natural to have a reaction to that on social media, especially if you come from the age and era before it. That's, I think, the key thing here that we got to understand. There's people who fuck up now, but they sort of know it's a fuck up. They don't really question it. In my opinion, it is a mistake to go political outside of your music. Okay? That's just my personal opinion. But Serj has opinions too. And Serj may not feel that way. And he has access and the right to a Twitter account, which by all means he should use. So here's the answer. In the age of 2020, you got to make a choice. Since you have the access to all of your favorite artists' thoughts and opinions and every waking consideration that they may put out there, it's your responsibility to take a look at their personal side, because now they're giving you a look at their personal side and telling and deciding whether you like that person personally or just for the music. And at that point, you need to unfollow them on everything. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but if you don't want to be offended, if you don't want to hear musicians' political opinions, the answer is not to tell them not to say them. Okay, he's another human being. Just because he makes the music that you like and does the thing, whatever, for money when he goes to do his job at work, that doesn't mean that he's not a human being just like you, and he doesn't have the conversations at the dinner table just like you that are heated with his family, and he wants his 2 cents in. He wants to say his piece, and that makes perfect fucking sense. So don't tell him to unplug. You unplug. That's really the era that we have to be in. If you don't like an artist, if you don't like what they represent, unfollow them. And if you don't want to listen to their music anymore, you don't have to. It's a beautiful thing, this freedom of choice. We're such spoiled fucks. So much freedom of choice, everything at our fingertips. We can do whatever we want, yet we still decide to send somebody a message for doing something that you don't like, when you could just watch whatever the fuck you want. Hilarious. I guess it's just part of the human condition. But like I always say, we're not going to solve all the world's problems tonight. So I want to make a toast to you guys. Ended up being a good week. I opened up a little more than I normally do today, but I feel like it's important. I feel like it's needed, and it's something I really wanted to do. And again, if you're offended by anything that I said, I don't apologize, because it's how I feel. Sorry. Until next time, this is Cassius Morris saying, toast and rock on.